Hi everyone, Jennifer Blevins-Smith with Integral Clinic Solutions, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Navigating the Business of Medicine. Today I want to talk about budgeting for your 2025 financial success. I can't believe we're saying this again already, but we are rapidly approaching the last quarter of 2024. And that means right now you should really be focusing on budgeting for 2025. I've done other videos in the past about what kind of things you should be looking at, what reports to run. So although it's a new year, I do encourage you to look at some of my past year's recommendations and then watch this video in addition to those, just to make sure that you're kind of getting the whole idea of the purpose behind budgeting. We had some good news last week as an economy in the United States, and the Federal Reserve dropped the interest rates a whole 50 points, which means it's about a half of a percentage point in interest. This is really big, and this definitely will help you when it comes to trying to anticipate any big expenses that you're going to need to make in 2025, something that might require a loan, or if you're currently paying back any loans, maybe if there's some opportunities out there to consolidate your debt or something like that, it's definitely something that you should be following closely. If you're not following the Federal Reserve and how they are kind of managing, I guess you will, interest rates, you really should be, again, especially if you're a business owner and if you have any debt out there that could benefit in the long run from maybe some kind of consolidation or refinancing or something like that. They won't be meeting in October, so we guess that they did the 50 basis points because they weren't meeting in October. So it was kind of like September and October's kind of together, but then they'll meet again in November. Do not wait until November to start budgeting. You should start budgeting now. You should have a very healthy analysis in the reports that you're currently running in your practice to kind of see if you're hitting your benchmarks, hitting your KPIs or key performance indicators, and just making sure that things are kind of going in the right direction. Of course, if you're not hitting your benchmarks, if things aren't looking as good as you hoped, there needs to be some reflection in that analysis, trying to identify if there's reasons for work gaps or things not getting done because there's no workflows established, or is it a marketing thing, or is it that you need new providers? I mean, there's so many things that can go into it. But first, if you're not hitting where you think you should be analyzing and finding out why. Then you need to take the information that you have currently and where things are to try to forecast and budget for next year. Again, this is a perfect time to be seeing if you need to anticipate any large purchases for equipment, if you're going to be hiring on new staff, especially providers, because they can be a little bit higher overhead, right? If you're going to be moving locations, if you know that your rent is going to maybe be going up or your lease information is going to be changing, if you're going to be moving locations or considering moving locations. These are all things that need to be looked at. Also, one of the big things that a lot of people don't think about is ordering of supplies, and it's office supplies, but your medical supplies as well, especially the stuff that gets thrown away and you have to replace, or things that expire that have to be replaced. Many medical supply companies around the end of the year will do certain deals. So if you buy so much, you get so much off, or they'll tell you if certain things are going to have a price increase next year. And if it's something you use a lot, it might be worth to buy an additional amount, especially if you think you'll go through it fast before it expires or it has a long expiration date and that's not something you're worried about. Those are the types of things you need to take advantage of because it will be a longer time into the new year before you have to buy more. Another thing to keep in mind is that you are coming into deductible season soon, which means the beginning of the year, majority of your patients' deductibles are going to be starting over. And that means you're going to be relying on a lot of patients paying their bills. So on top of budgeting and forecasting for next year, I really encourage you to make sure and review your collections process, your internal patient collections process, not the process of sending patients to an external collections company. That could be part of your internal workflow, but you need to have a process from beginning to end. If patients aren't paying their bills within a certain amount of time, making sure that you have some kind of follow-up process, documentation process, and then ultimately when you would be sending them to that external collection company. In addition to this, you need to make sure that people are well trained and comfortable asking for money. I'm talking about people like staff internally, that they know that they need to be checking patient balances when they're checking them in. They know that when patients call over the phone, that they just kind of casually look up the patient's balance and maybe mention it on the phone if it's very delinquent account. Making sure that your statements are being run regularly and being sent out to patients, that somebody's monitoring all of this very closely, that your patient aging AR balances are smaller the farther out you go. So the majority of your patient accounts receivable or balances that need to be collected should be the highest percentage in those 0 to 30, 31 to 60, and then 61 to 90 buckets. If they're past that 90-day mark or outside of that 90-day bucket, it goes into 120, 180, we're getting really, really, really bad. You do not want the bulk of your outstanding patient balances out there. You want it as soon as possible to try to collect from their date of service. So you really need to start doing some cleanup. If not, you need to make sure people are trained, expectations are set, workflows are set, everything like that, because not only are you trying to budget to make sure that you're not having to spend a lot of unnecessary money out of pocket within the first quarter or two of the new year, but you also want to make sure that you are capturing all the money owed to you from patients during deductible season. Now, of course, depending on your specialty and your billing practices, maybe you push a bunch of cleanup for claims at the end of the year, so you'll get those kind of late payments at the beginning of the year in the first quarter to have a little bit of chunk or fluff. I mean, that's okay, but you still shouldn't rely on that. Also, if you are a primary care, maybe you do a lot of preventive exams or preventive services, and that will help because insurances will cover those without it going to deductibles. Whew, thankfully. But also at the same time, you can't rely on that. So you want to make sure that your collections from patient balances process is like just tight, just really well, running well. If you have questions about it, please leave it in the comments below, but you want to be reflecting on that. Running the reports to see all your aging, running to see and make sure that you're getting the money, the allowable from the different insurance companies per your contracts for CPTs, making sure that your claims are getting paid in a reasonable time frame and that you're not having a lot of denials and rejections. These are all the things that you should be monitoring throughout the year, but you really, really want to hunker down and really look at stuff to try to fix things so that you can start off the new year on the right foot and be able to obtain and use the budget and forecasting that you're going to put together right now, and that you can be even more successful next year. If you have any questions or comments about this, please leave that in the comments below. But please, if you are a manager, you're a provider, an owner, you should be collaborating with anybody internally who would have some influence or participation, responsibilities in the different areas that I discussed today for budgeting, forecasting, reviewing your KPIs and your finances, making sure that next year you are set for any large purchases and anticipating any of that, making sure your collections process is solid, like watertight, and also making sure that if you need to make any large lot purchases of things that you're going to go through fast and that the prices may be going up at the beginning of the new year, you can do that now to try to help save money and not have to spend it at the beginning of next year. If you have any questions or comments, again, leave that in the comments below. Smash the thumbs up button if today's video was helpful. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and please share this video with your colleagues. Thank you so much for the support. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.